This is going to be recorded. So it'll be available on the website, baywardbulletin.ca. Also, it will be in the newsletter sent out once it's ready. So, yeah, we're doing pretty good for numbers. Great. Okay, so I'll more formally welcome everybody. Thank everybody for coming out this evening. I think everyone's anxious to have more information on that great big project that's, for some cases, it's just right outside your door. And for others, it's a little further away, so you haven't heard much about it because it doesn't affect you as deeply. But of course, it's part of our future transit system, and we want to know how it's progressing. So lots of work. So the way we're going to run it is that I'm going to introduce Damon from the Stage 2 team, and he'll introduce everybody on the team who's here to answer the questions that were submitted ahead of time. So that's how we'll start off. And one of the things we're going to ask, that if you send questions in the chat, that's fine. But comments, we won't be reading out comments because we're looking at questions to get answered. So it would be more productive if you put things in the form of a question of what information you're looking for. Okay, so that would be very helpful for everyone if you're seeking more information, and that will make things move quickly. Okay, thank you very much. I mean, you can make comments, but it'll be difficult to go through them, and we'll stick to questions in terms of what we're presenting. Okay, I hope everybody understands that that's the best way to get the information. So we'll just checking a message from my staff. So as I said, we're going to deal with the questions that were sent in ahead of time. And Damon, you've got a copy of them all, right? So, or would you like me to read the ones that I've got?
Yeah, so I was talking with Georgie, and at the end of the presentation, she'll read off the questions, and we will endeavor to answer them, much like the questions that are asked in chat. If that works with everybody, that's how we think is best to deal with that.
And we'll say who's in, etc. So, okay, so I think we can start. Thank you very much. So I'm going to hand it over to Damon de Berlin. Any of you who have been following things closely are familiar with Damon, who's been doing a fantastic job keeping us informed, announcing all the changes that need to get done. And the whole team is working hard on the communication and being our connection to Kev. Okay, thank you, Damon.
Thank you very much, Councillor. And thank you, everybody, for coming to share your next little while with me and our team. This evening, I'm very happy that I have some wonderful people here to assist in answering the great questions that you have already and will ask. From the city side, Rosanna Baggs, who supports me in Ward 7 and in technical, bridging the gap between technical and construction and design with what we need, which is resident and stakeholder support. I have Campbell Inwood, who is our manager of traffic for the Stage 2 project, and so dealing with some of those other questions that you may have. From the CAV side, I have Jaimie Robinson, who is the director of communications and stakeholder relations, has more experience than I do. So over 10, that's pretty incredible doing this kind of work. And Jennifer Falconer, who joins us as well from CAV, the Deputy Director of Communications and Stakeholder Relations. So thank you all for coming to support this evening. From the outset, Councillor Kavanagh did note that this is going to be questions asked in chat because of the size of Ward 7 and the number of stations, the number of different elements of construction occurring, thereby impacts, and the number of community associations. I'm aware that there are a broad range of issues. Some of them overlap, some of them are site specific. So in order to help us get through that, I thank you for adhering to that request, as well as interruptions throughout it are very challenging in a online presentation. So I appreciate that as well. So with that, I'm going to get started. Thank you very much. I think there we are. And so the stage 2 project is an extensive and inclusive project. We take people all the way from Moody to Trim in the east. Now that's an incredible feat. In the east, we only have 5 stations, whereas we have a multitude more. We'll go into details here. And then in the south, we extend all the way down to Limebank, Bowesville, Airport. And these are the major connection points as we bring more people in the city with the ability to get across downtown out of. This is the bread and butter of the stage 2 project. In the west, specifically, we have 11 stations. We have 15 kilometers of new track. For those of you who have the pleasure of either living and looking onto the river over the Parkway, or if you enjoy using the pathways and that infrastructure, when this system opens, approximately 500,000 bus trips annually will be removed from the SJAM Parkway. And that is something special for a lot of people, even if you don't live there, I'm sure. And that's a really nice bit for this. Also worth noting is a tunnel from Kitchissippi all the way down to Lincoln Fields. Another smaller tunnel in the Connaught Queensview area. And those are how our train is going to, after construction, impact fewer people and not impact connectivity, ensure at grade separation. It's all part of that. Now the project is a design, build, finance project. And we have Kev, who won the contract and signed to deliver the east-west extensions. T-Next is delivering the south extension, but that's not the topic of conversation today. Rideau Transit Maintenance is contracted to maintain the entire line, not just the 12.5 kilometers they built and opened in 2019, but the full breadth of the system from Moody to Trim, as well as all the vehicles, the current and the new. And that's to avoid any complications with, well, that was your train and that was your track, and well, who's going to fix it? Well, there hopefully won't be any of that with this model. I put this in here because I've received a lot of emails, and this is more of a housekeeping. I understand impacts are great, especially right now in the Byron area. I've heard it. I understand. With 7 days a week of work, with hole ramming and rock breaking occurring on Saturdays and Sundays, it feels not a lot of respite. I'm sorry. And a lot of you have asked me, and a lot of you have asked Councillor Kavanagh to have a day of rest, to force Kev to have a day of rest. And unfortunately, I'm not able to do that. And Councillor Kavanagh's not able to do that. Mayor Watson's not able to do that. Unfortunately, or the reality, I think is a better term, is constructors, LRT, home construction, road construction, you name it. They have the right to work 7 days a week if they so choose. Ottawa City bylaws preclude and restrict activities overnight with the affected ward councillor's support. But there is literally no mechanism within the city. If you wanted to email your MPP, Jaimie Roberts, if you wanted to contact Premier Ford, that is certainly an option. But unfortunately, we'll get into that more, what's going on. I just really want you to know what is and what is not within our scope and purview to assist with. I thank you for that. As I mentioned briefly in the project intro, we do have 2 tunnels, this being the breadth of the Parkway Tunnel, spanning from Kitchissippi, Sherborne Station, New Orchard Station, down to Lincoln Fields down here, And this is the portal, and this is the portal right here. There's another smaller tunnel just as it cuts down the corner through Connaught Park, under Connaught Avenue, and reappears in the form of a trench down along the north side of the highway past Queensview Station. And so there is a relocation of utilities ongoing, anticipated to be completed this summer, with Hydro, Rogers, Enbridge, and Bell relocations all ongoing, and wet utilities work on Richmond Road at McEwen Avenue. Drilling of soldier piles is ongoing for cut and cover tunneling work. We have rock excavation at New Orchard. Rock is present. Well, we have rock the entire breadth of the Byron section of the tunnel. Once the rock has been broken and removed, at that point, it's going to be an exercise to bring concrete trucks onto Byron Avenue so that we can start pouring. Well, in advance of the concrete are going to be the rebar deliveries, because they build the formwork, rebar to support, and then pour the concrete. And that'll be activities that we anticipate seeing throughout spring and summer of 21. As an overview, Byron Linear Park has quite a bit of activities, and I don't need to tell you who live around there this. This is not news, but you need to know, please, that the tunnel work is progressing, and it's progressing very well. The weekend work that occurs each weekend thus far has moved that work forward by 1 week. So in 2 days, they achieve 5 days worth of work. That's because they're able to remobilize equipment that is otherwise spoken for during the week. Utilities relocation work has been the theme of 2020 and continues to dominate the early parts of 21. That's all in order to help us start this epic season of construction. Asphalt paving on Byron Avenue, west of Woodruff, completed. It's ongoing, which point the contractor is reinstalling TCBs, or the temporary concrete barriers, the modular fencing atop. I mentioned that the concrete pouring is going to occur. Now, that means that we will have the echo barriers reinstalled once the concrete barriers are in place to be installed upon. I talked to you about the advantage of the rock breaking on the weekends, and that is a huge ability to move the project schedule forward. We'll go into more details, and you saw in the 90-day notice, there will be a 13-day closure of Woodruff, and we are restricting truck hauling to arterial roads. Sherborne Station, formerly known as Cleary Station. So tunnel construction across Byron Linear Park, it's going to continue through 21. A new water main installation at Cleary is planned to begin to be completed, by August. And you can expect, as motorists, road detours at Cleary Avenue and Richmond Road as this work is ongoing. Sherborne Station, which we see here, you can tell that it was formerly called Cleary Station, and not all renderings are updated. Sherborne Station will have a single entrance here at the east side of the station. I have 20 spaces for bike parking, passenger pickup on Byron, Paputo otherwise known, multi-use pathways connecting through the park as well up through the Cleary pedestrian underpass. At this point, I would also like to point out about renderings. We've received some great feedback from some residents about renderings, about what's included and what isn't included. Renderings are photorealistic artist interpretations based upon incomplete design work. Renderings are a fairly new construct with projects. 20, 30 years ago, they didn't exist, and we'd be relying on construction drawings to help tell a picture. What I mean to say is that the technology to develop these is in its infancy. The comments we've received is that they are not inclusive of individuals, of race, of abilities, mobilities impaired, that they don't have representation in the wintertime we have shared these comments with the constructors. We have shared these comments with our design team. I can tell you that we are taking your words seriously and we are sharing them with those who develop them. So thank you for that, and I appreciate the understanding. The Byron Linear Park 13-day Woodruff closing. In this image, you can see the section. Basically, the tunnel goes along Byron Linear Park. We need to get the cut and cover work working underneath Woodruff Avenue. In order to do so, 13-day closure of Byron will allow for the excavation, removals, and lastly, decking of the roadway to thereby reallow north-south crossings of the Byron Linear Park at Woodruff. The 13 days feels impactful. It is. Pedestrians, as you can see here, will continue, and cyclists will continue to have the ability to cross the work zone safely. Vehicles will not. For vehicles wishing to cross the area in the west, the signed detour is Croydon Avenue, and in the east, the signed detour is Churchill Avenue. A notice will be delivered. We are finalizing the information. Once that comes out, more precise information will be shared and posted online. There was one other point I wanted to make about this. And so there is going to be quite a bit of impact because as we've seen with the Woodruff water main works that are occurring here over the last month. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Thank you. I've had some problems with my computer today. I do apologize. There's a lot of rock to break, and so it will be excavated, broken, and removed. And that is 13 days will allow for that. Kev will be attempting to schedule the noisiest parts during the day, removals in the evening. Sometimes that will be possible. Other times it's all noisy work, but they are certainly cognizant of the fact that this is impactful and their interest is not to totally rile the entire community as a result. Now the cut and cover tunnel will be constructed to an approximate depth of 10.5 meters. And effectively, not the excavations, but the construction of the tunnel will go until 2023. The rock breaking, obviously, because we have all of that rock, they break it, they remove it, we will have the space. This is incredible. At New Orchard Station, as you can see, the installation of soldier piles continue supporting excavations, and rock excavations are proceeding. At New Orchard Station area, they reached a 10.5 meter depth. They still remain some pump pits and elevator pits, but otherwise they've reached maximum depth required. That is attributed to the last 2 weekends of work. Now, New Orchard Station is a station with 2 Paputos, 2 passenger pickup and drop-offs, just right here with restricted times. A little update for the community. If you haven't seen my emails, there will be no other formalized parking on Byron west of Woodruff. I know that there was some miscommunications with what was on our website, and that I believe has been resolved. We did have some issues with IT removing our information without telling us. It's neither here nor there, and I do apologize for any miscommunications that the community had as a result. There will be 5 fare gates, 2 elevators, as with Sherborne, 20 bike parking spaces and 4 benches. Like Cleary, it is an open air station. That means that there is no roof to the tunnel. There will be shading above or coverage above on the platform. Well, it will have, as you can see, the only thing above grade here is the head house and elevator shaft, the entrance and fare gates. The rest of the infrastructure is all below grade. Construction will begin in 21 and will be completed in 23. If you were part of the February 10th Wood Park presentation, you would have seen this slide. This work is required to relocate a sanitary line at McEwen. It was delayed and will, however, result in the temporary closure of the sidewalk. And they anticipate that this 6-week work package to occur between May and June. May and July, pardon me. It is a 6-week package. Each section will be broken up in about two weeks each. Please understand, construction schedules do have a tendency to shift. Edgeworth storm sanitarium and water relocations and replacements. Now work has recently begun and is anticipated until August. The work is to replace the storm and water, relocate storm and sanitary, replace water. Temporary widening has occurred over the ditches to allow for local vehicular access to access their driveways. The final paving of the road will follow the completion of the work. Now, there's something else that I wanted to mention. So driveways will be blocked. Some driveways periodically 1 to 2 days, and that's generally in a section of about 2 driveways at a time. And this could occur up to 4 times. This is not because of KEV. This is the way that utilities are replaced and realigned underneath roadways, 1 at a time. Dig, replace, fill up, dig, replace, fill up, dig, replace, fill up, dig, replace, fill up. It happened in front of my street on Iona. I didn't understand it. Now I do. And hopefully, if you have any questions, you can connect with me and we can walk you through that. Something I want to point out right now, and it's something that has been in the works with KEV and the city, in order to help minimize the impact of construction vehicles on these streets. We are reviewing a plan, as I mentioned, it's not yet finalized, to have KEV construction vehicles be able to access their work site through a right turn, southbound right turn into Edgeworth. Now, this is a dead end and for all other vehicles, but if we can finalize this plan, they'll be able to access, which will preclude their requirement to access from the south part of Edgeworth. And so once we do have final information, we'll be sharing that with Councillor Kavanagh and the community at large, of course. As we move further west, Lincoln Fields, you can see the soldier pile drilling underway for the portal of the tunnel. This is 1190. Oh, geez, I'm so sorry. This is 1190 Richmond right here. As we go south, it leaves the tunnel at about here, the ramp up, and accessing Lincoln Fields up this way. Utilities are ongoing on Carling. You may have noticed some roadway realignments. Lincoln Field Station work started. It's pretty exciting with pad installation. So that's a huge moment, I'd say. That's what we're doing. So to point out that MUP construction on the south end of Carling in May, Lincoln Field Station, existing transway station that will be reoriented and completely rebuilt and function as a new LRT station. The train platform will be located under Carling Avenue. There will be 3 entrances, a station entrance from Carling Avenue, an entrance. There will be Yes, a shared entrance between the fare paid and the pedestrian, as well as one on the west side. A signalized pedestrian crossing of Carling will also help with safe crossings of Carling Avenue. And the existing terminal will be reconfigured to accommodate the passenger pickup and drop-off area. And this next picture will help demonstrate the future MUP connectivity around the infrastructure, Lawn Avenue Parkette, down along this way. So here we have signalized intersection just at where the MUP comes up from that borders Rosewood Avenue. And this here is the passenger pickup and drop-off area that I just described. This is the existing Woodruff Pedestrian Bridge. It will be replaced as part of this project. It won't be decommissioned until the new bridge is constructed. That new bridge construction will begin in 2021 shortly and will be completed in 2022. Once that occurs, we will commission the new infrastructure and decommission the existing bridge. And as we just saw from north of Carling, this is the current pedestrian bridge. This is the new alignment of the pedestrian bridge, connecting to similar MUP infrastructure, new pathways, and new connection points. Now the Connaught split structure, you can see right here with walls, retaining walls, decking, work ongoing. So it's pretty incredible to see this level of progress on this project at this stage of the game. I think so. I actually will just go back. No, I did get an email today from someone who was walking the pathways in and around this area. They noted that they were impressed at the progress, but more so, they were walking their young infant, well, maybe not so infant, but 9 months along the pathways. And she noted that, you know, some parts were less pedestrian friendly, but still manageable with a stroller. And then she pointed out that there were 2 flag women on radios who were beyond friendly, who were beyond helpful, and took the time to write into the office to tell us this. I know that there are a lot of negative impacts to the construction of this project. Nobody really feels the need to give kudos. It's nice to hear every now and then, and I wanted to share that someone had a positive experience around the construction. Queensview Station, here we have the Highway 417. I don't know if you got this, but here's our new highway signage. It's recently been replaced, a smaller sign with a much larger sign. Drillings of soldier piles can be seen at this location. And the soldier pile drilling is going to progress east into Connaught Park. At this point, it's still here in the Queensview Station area. And pile drilling underway through the summer, working up to Connaught Park, utility relocation underway, pedestrian bridge utility relocation is ongoing. That pedestrian bridge that I'm referring to relates to this pedestrian bridge for Queensview Station. So just again, relocating utilities, which is part of our project to get the work done. Now, Queensview Station is a new station. As you can see, it's just north of Highway 417. The station is going to have one entrance. Sorry, I keep pointing it on my other screen, so I do apologize, but this is the station entrance. And a new public access pedestrian bridge over Highway 417. And access from the enhanced multi-use pathway and sidewalk system to allow from Queensview Drive. and Queensview Terrace North communities. And station construction will start in February 22 with a completion date of fall 23. Excuse me. From Pinecrest to Moody, the activities start to repeat themselves. So we have a number of interchange or highway ramps that have been closed or require closure so that we can bring the alignment west or east, depending on which way you're talking. Right now we're talking west on the north side of Highway 417. So with ramp closures, and sometimes it's just short-term overnight closures, and other time we're talking 9, 13-month closures. Structural work, night work is in place to reduce impacts. Of course, again, we are relocating traffic, utilities, ramps, bus lanes. This is all to make space. So that is a much repeated message. At Bayshore, work has started on the relocation of the new bus loop, again, with relocations of utilities. And so these are the ongoing messages. Future Pinecrest Station, bridge and ramp construction work is ongoing. Summer bridge replacement. We'll have temporary road closures, and the ramp closure is in place, currently in place through December 2021. And here we have bridge structure work is progressing with parapet and concrete deck installation. I am blown away by this progress. Having done a drive with Kev at the last summer, and talking about what the plan was and how the plan was for this, and that's an incredible feat. Just pointing that out. At Moody Station, we have new ramp construction ongoing with a ramp flip expected this spring. Moody bus station area relocations to start in May through the summer, and night work in this area is ongoing. I've received a few emails as of late about Moody Bridge and the cycling conditions. I haven't replied to those emails. Just working on this presentation the last couple of days. I will reply. Thank you. Paul, Ian, thank you. The rail office had requested Sharrows be installed as part of our temporary detour and temporary works. Traffic services, the city of Ottawa, they told us that Sharrows were not an appropriate function for the space, and instead to use share the road signs, which is what we've done. What we are happy to do is to return to traffic services and inquire if they want to change their position, at which point we'd be more than happy to introduce Sharrows onto the road. And I got the impression from those emails that that is something you'd like me to do. So that's something that we are going to do. Moody Station area has a bus loop relocation, bus lane work, May 21, with bridge work that is underway and is the cause of those emails. For those of you who use that bridge, you understand. If you don't, then we don't need to go into that for you. But we are working on that, and we do review it, and we do appreciate your comments, because it really helps us ensure that all the TCPs or traffic control plans, if there is a shift, if all the elements have been adhered to. Sometimes we tweak our plans based on your feedback, and we thank you for that. The LMSF, or Light Maintenance and Storage Facility, construction to start in April of this year with rebar, concrete pours, and structure. More utility relocations, and Corkstown Road realignment. That design is not yet approved. I understand that a lot of you have been waiting and asking for a year for that design and answers. And I'm not trying to be flippant. I'm not trying to stall. But if a design's not approved, then there is no design and there's no information for me to share. I anticipate in the coming weeks, and I'm excited to say this, I heard something on a call today, that there's going to be some T's crossed and I's dotted. And that will be an opportunity for us to advise Councillor Kavanagh, her office, and the community at large. And I thank you for your patience while we wait for this information. Bit of a CAD overlay of what to expect with the LMSF, or Light Maintenance and Storage Facility. I say light because this is going to be a facility that doesn't do heavy maintenance, but washes, light maintenance, sand. I believe it'll also replace their sand reserves. Sand, Damon? Why would you have sand in a train? Well, sand helps grips of metal wheels on metal tracks, and trains have sand. I now have some news that I do not like sharing. There was a connectivity review, or connectivity 2.4, that was undertaken in 2020. In 2020, it was proposed that we could consider a MUP on the west side of Moody Bridge. At this point, that MUP will not be built by East-West Connectors, or KEV. The cost to do so would be too high. But Stage 2 believes in this connectivity, this piece of infrastructure. And we're reviewing an opportunity to construct this MUP ourselves. We don't have any finalized solutions yet, but we are pursuing them. So while we are not delivering this as part of the Stage 2 project with KEV, we do hope we are able to deliver this project, this element of the project for you, as we do believe in the importance of this connectivity. Furthermore, transportation planning is leading a feasibility assessment of extending this MUP along the west side of Moody from the bridge all the way to Bell's Corners. So that would tie in. Okay, some facts, some impacts, and some mitigation. Daytime operations, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m., Monday to Saturday. Generally speaking, even Saturdays, not that often. 10 p.m., not that often. Mostly, KEV, like you or me, when we have the option, we like to close shop, go home to our families at 5 o'clock. When schedules, when other things necessitate, they might have to push that, get on another crew to work until 10. That is not their interest. That is not their day-to-day. Sometimes it's required. Just as night work, sometimes it's required. Sometimes, mostly it's not. And KEV doesn't want to do night work if they don't have to do night work. KEV doesn't relish impacting residents. Night work costs more money for KEV to undertake. KEV is building this project for the city for a profit. So obviously it doesn't make sense to spend more money when money's not necessarily needed to be spent. Connectivity will be maintained. There may be delays, there may be detours, but connectivity will be maintained. Your safety, worker safety, paramount in the eyes of KEV, in the eyes of the city, in the eyes of your councillor, and in your eyes as well. We respect that you respect construction signage, and we thank you for adhering to those signs during this work. Construction work doesn't have to be dangerous, but we hear that people get hurt. We hear there just recently, just this week, there was the National Day. And really, KEV's got a great track record. But they are partners with the city and they are partners with you. And we are all partners together to get this project done together. Noise and vibration is monitored to ensure its compliance with our project agreement. Sometimes there are pumps and generators powering those pumps, required for dewatering and excavations. KEV has been wrapping those generators in Ward 7. Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh, for helping us. And thank you, Kev, for helping us do so. Residents, you let us know. Councillor Kavanagh, you advocated for them. Kev, you listened. That's us being a team. Construction vehicles are only supposed to travel on approved truck routes or haul routes. So the City of Ottawa has a truck network of roads that can be used. And with every activity, Kev has the city approve a traffic control plan, and with that, a haul plan. How do they get their vehicles in and out of that work site and get to the nearest approved route? Lastly, dust. I think it's going to be a dusty summer. I think it's going to be a warm, dry, dusty summer. Kev will be managing dust suppression as well as street sweeping. And we are looking at you to let us know, like, do things get really bad on the weekends when we're not around? Let us know. We'll make sure that suppression efforts are made. Are there areas that we haven't addressed that need addressing? Let us know. Again, we're partners in this. We're team members, and you help me. I help you. Kev helps us. It's important we all play our role. I talked to you about overnight work a few slides ago. Truly, there are emergency situations, sometimes schedule, but this is not the day-to-day. It is not expected. You know, in our project agreement, we encourage work occur at evening, overnight, when it could impact our mobility on the roads. So that's by our own doing to support the city. Lastly, my name is Damon Berlin. This is my contact information. Many of you have it. Some of you don't. Please record it. Please feel free to use it. It's important that I understand the problems. It's important that I can communicate with Kev what you share with me, and hopefully we can find resolutions. It's not always possible, but I'll always endeavor to give you a strong rationale as to why or why not we can do what you're asking. At this point, I'd like to thank you all for listening to me drone on for the last 40 minutes. This is not an easy thing to do. In person, I like to feed off the crowd. Right now, I feel bored of my own voice. So I'm sorry, and I thank you. Councillor Kavanagh.
Thank you. Thank you, Damon. That's a lot of information to put into 40 minutes as well. And I've noticed that you've responded to the questions that we've received. So in the most in a very broad way, and also in some specific ways as well. So I'm going to start, and because we've got a ton of questions to go through, I am just selecting the questions. So I'm sorry, but comments, Damon can look at them and read them, but we're going to just go with questions right now. So I'll start with the ones that were sent in ahead of time. And from Leslie Caswell, is there any tentative dates for when you'll be starting to dig up next to the Parkway? Also, what about when you be closing Richmond Road at Redwood? Will people be able to use Byron when Richmond is closed?
So there was a few elements there. I don't know if Campbell or Jaimie want to
happy
weigh in
to
on that. Thank you.
Yeah, happy to take a run at that. Leslie, thank you very much for that question. So first one, if I pull those apart, so you were asking about when digging will start next to the Parkway. Digging at the Parkway is going to begin in late May. You asked about Richmond and Redwood. And so Richmond's not going to be closed at Redwood and Cleary. It's going to be reconfigured at the end of 2021, but Richmond will remain open.
And that's much like we're creating the decking at Woodruff. Is that right, Jaimie? That same similar methodology will be employed to cross Richmond Road.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jaimie. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay.
Hey, thank you. Andy Church is asking, wondering if there'll be an update on berms in Connaught Park. And when will the traffic noise reduction efforts start along the Queensway after LRT and new high-rise buildings are up?
Okay.
Which we don't have any plans for. MTO sound walls, in other words.
Okay, so good questions. The first question, I can tell you that we are waiting for a noise and vibration study, and that noise and vibration study is going to tell us a few things that we've been waiting to hear. It's going to tell us what the approximate mitigation from noise the berms would achieve. It'd be able to tell us the modeling of the anticipated volume of the passing trains. The reason why this is important is because of the feedback we've received. It seems that the community sort of split whether berms are wanted or not. And so for the most part, if they're not going to serve a function or a purpose, that they might not be the approach. There are 2 berms that are called for in the project agreement that are being delivered. It's the enhanced and the new ones that we are waiting to see. Of course, if the community wants this, something we can pursue. If the community doesn't, this is something we won't pursue. The noise and vibration study is going to help us define that. With respect to sound walls on the highway, I do not believe sound walls on Highway 417 are within the scope of the Stage 2 project, and I believe that is in the scope of the MTO, but I think that Campbell and Wood could confirm that for me.
Hi, Damon. Thanks. Yes. So I think that the question regarding the sound walls along the 417, I'd seen it earlier today, and it was related to the section between Maitland and Woodruff, where we don't have any scope adjacent to there. So no, that will not be done as part of this project, but it is something that we encourage everyone to continue asking the Ministry of Transportation about. With regard to areas to the west of where the train will become running alongside the highway, again, I don't believe there's any plans for noise walls there. I know we already have a noise wall that was built when the transitway was extended from Holly Acres to Moody, if I recall correctly, and so that would already be in place, but otherwise there are no noise walls to the east of Holly Acres planned to be implemented with this project.
Thank you, Campbell. Councillor?
Yes, thank you. We have, I think these questions were answered. These were from Don McMaster about the Woodruff closure.
I did try to answer the questions about the renderings and the Woodruff closure. If anything wasn't answered, we're happy to go through, but I do want to reiterate the fact that once the rest of the details are finalized, a notice will be sent out. Portable variable message signs are going to be installed at least 2 weeks before the closure on the roadway. And it will greatly utilize the City of Ottawa's social media network and Councillor Kavanagh's social media network to get that information out as well. Thank you, Don.
Yeah, everything will always be put in the Bay Bulletin.
Yeah, and just to reconfirm it again, so it is late May and it's for 13 days, so it's not a particularly long closure, but as Damon did a great job describing it, it will be impactful for the community, but it's the best way for us to get in and out of there as quickly as possible. 13 days, end of May.
Okay.
And it runs.
Okay, and update design for Sherborne LRT station. When we'll see it?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
When will we see an updated the version of the Sherborne station?
Has the community seen a design of the Sherborne station? I don't ever recall sharing it. That was my question. I'm not trying to be difficult. How can I give you an update of something that we haven't shared? Yeah.
I think he meant from the rendering. I think that's what he's referring to.
Oh, okay. So there's no obligation to update renderings. We did request renderings for every station at the outset of the project. As things are updated, Kev does update a few renderings each year, but certainly not the full breadth. They do cost a lot of money, and they do provide a real help to the residents But again, since they're not billed as, ultimately, the name will change and maybe a few other design elements.
Okay, thank you. Updated LRT West Phase 2 plan. When will we see an updated LRT Phase 2 plan, including following milestones? Byron Tunnel completion, Richmond Road update, S-Jam, Parkway overpass near Sherborne Station.
Okay, well, the tunnel, as mentioned in the presentation, is anticipated to be completed construction in 2023. I don't have the information readily available about the Cleary underpass. It's a bit outside of the scope of the ward at this point, but I don't know if Jaimie has that information offhand. If not, we can get that. My colleague will have it readily available. And there was one other area you wanted an update for. Richmond Road complete street, is that it? Or the current works on Richmond Road?
Richmond Road update completion. Yeah, but
So-
I think that implies that.
I think you're right, Councillor. I think it implies the Richmond Road complete street. That is part of the project agreement. Kev is required to complete, or contractually required, pardon me, to complete the project before the end of 2025. So while I haven't seen a timeline for the installation of Richmond Road complete street, we do know it will occur before the end of 2025. Of course, as we get more updates about the schedule, these are the sort of things we want to share, but it's also not a general practice to share, oh, this is going to be done in 2024 or 20. I mean, ultimately, a lot of things change in construction. And so we're trying to give the truth, not the truth as it appears one day, but changes the next.
Okay. This is from Paul Clark. What are the project limits for stage 2 LRT in the Holly Acres corridor to the south of the rail line?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. We got that email earlier today and we're unpacking that. Campbell, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that. I know you did review it and I've sent it further afield for confirmation, but I haven't heard back. We only got it later this afternoon.
Yeah, so Damon, and thanks for the question, Paul. The construction limits on Holly Acres are effectively encompassing the two existing signalized intersections for the eastbound off-ramp from the 417 or the northbound off-ramp from the 416, as well as the one on the north side of the highway that provides access to the westbound 417. So those two intersections are being tweaked or adjusted, modified through our scope. And so the construction limits along Holly Acres will basically go as far north of the northern intersection as is necessary to tie back into the existing. So a ways 30, 50 meters, I'm not sure of the exact number. And similarly to the south of the southern intersection, they'll rebuild what's necessary to tie back into the existing. But if I might, Damon, I think another part of Paul's question was related to cross rides at those two intersections. Is that correct?
Well, I'll give you the other two questions. It's about the MUP reinstatement and improvement in the, is this been specified in the contract with Kev?
So I effectively, where we are touching them up, where we need to rebuild Holly Acres in order to do these modifications to the intersections, the facilities will therefore be new on both sides of the road. And that is effectively limited to what needs to be done, again, usually about 30 meters on either side of the intersections to tie back into the existing. I think there's a question that we're going to look into as to the extent of modifications that are currently in the plan between the two intersections. So we will be coming south of the northern intersection and north of the southern intersection, but I don't know if the dots get connected in between. So we are going to have to verify that, and we can follow up by email separately. But I did want to note that we are including cross-ride features for cyclists across the on-ramps and effectively wherever we're able to at those existing intersections. So those features have been captured in the scope of the contract.
Okay, so the MUP traffic will it be forced to Holly Acres north-south MUP, i.e. the one nearer to Bayshore, while the new 417 west westbound on-ramp is being constructed?
So effectively, we're lucky in that area that we do have multi-use pathways on both sides of the street, and that does afford some flexibility when there are operations that require us to, rebuild a certain side of the intersection. So when we are doing the works on the west side of Holly Acres at the northern intersection with the transitway and the westbound on-ramp, when we're doing the works there, the traffic will be diverted to the east side. And similarly, when we're doing works on the east side of that intersection, the traffic will be diverted to the west side so that connectivity is always maintained. But the detours would only be in place for the duration necessary to complete, that particular work that's conflicting.
Thanks, Campbell. We're going to go on to the questions that were in the chat. And we're starting off with just west of the new Sherborne station. There will be a 100-meter long open trench. Will there be trees planted either side of the trench?
It's a great question. We don't have finalized landscape plans for Byron Linear Park. We anticipate to get finalized landscape plans for Byron Linear Park in fall of 21. We know that there will be a beautiful enhanced park. We provided preliminary designs for it. We have received a list from the community during our 1.5-year consultation on the park. We received a list of trees from the community that you wanted to see in the park, and that list of trees, it's what Kev is building their design plan from. So I do love the fact that while we're not today consulting on what will be done, we did consult and you have contributed, and that's a lovely thing to know. Where those trees are going to occur, I don't know yet. If there's space on either end, I don't know. What I do know is there's an interest in having MUPs on the north and south side if there's room. If that's the case, that will be what goes on either side of the open trench, and then trees being around. Really, space is going to dictate what goes where. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Why did the construction contract not specify work hours?
The city of Ottawa doesn't have if you can work as any construction project 7 days a week, why would we limit the construction abilities of the project that's not building the home next door or building the condo down the street, but actually building a service for the city? It's a city project and the city's going to benefit from it. I don't see the value in limiting the days of work, and the city of Ottawa limits the hours of work. We don't need to bake that into the contract. The contract says is that Kev has to adhere to federal, provincial laws and municipal bylaws. Kev does. Kev applies for exemptions when they have work to achieve. Kev notifies residents of the work they are going to do as part of the condition of that exemption.
This is actually not a question for the team here, but someone is asking if there's any advocacy for Friends of Pinecrest Creek in terms of daylighting Pinecrest Creek, which is an NCC question. And I did ask NCC to come, but they were not available. So I'm going to keep bugging them though, just so you know. Next question, will the access routes for rebar delivery and concrete be consistent with the current routing to avoid traffic through the neighborhood?
Yeah, so the signs within Wood Park
Mhm.
and Carlingwood that say no LRT trucks through those streets, they are staying. The plan is to have these deliveries of rebar and the pouring of concrete to be achieved from Byron Avenue. That's going to necessitate temporary closures of a few blocks at a time as the work progresses. So not one static over the next 4 months, but likely for a few weeks here and a few weeks there, and not all the time, daytime only, because what we have are deliveries and trucks. When those deliveries and trucks go away, then the road is open again for everybody. I want to thank all the residents of Wood Park and Carlingwood who do keep a keen eye about errant truck drivers who don't see the signs, who haven't been read the riot act from our friends at Kev. but I will let you know that that is a can that has been kicked down the road, and we have crushed it. I do believe. We had a big problem with that a few months ago, and I can't remember the last time I got an email about it. Thank you, Kev. Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, community.
Okay, what is in scope for utilities relocation? I think that's a good question. I don't think people, you know, realize how many things are utilities and how many things have to be relocated.
So underground, you have your sanitary, you have your water, and you have your storm. Sometimes those are in the way of where the tunnel's going or where other infrastructure has to go. Above ground, we have those poles that have hydro, they have telecoms and other assorted infrastructure that use those poles. They rent them from Hydro Ottawa or Hydro One. Sometimes those poles need to be moved. Sometimes they need to be slightly relocated. Sometimes they need to be buried. Sometimes they don't need to be moved at all. That is what is meant by utilities. Sometimes you'll see in a slide, I think I had in there, wet utilities. Those are the underground utilities, hydro and telecoms in the sky.
okay.
Great question.
Yes, no, I think it's, I didn't, you know, you think you know, but it's actually pretty involved. Someone's asking about slide 6, because this was asked during the presentation, if you can.
Sure.
If you can go back to it. Can you clarify what the green path between Richmond Road and Lincoln Field Station means? When exactly does the train go through from being tunneled to above ground? And if the train becomes above ground abruptly south of Richmond Road, how will the path connect under the bridge once the train exits?
Slide 6. I shall walk you through it. Oh, too much clicking. I'm sorry. There we are. Sorry, I'm on the wrong screen again. This green indicates the slope. Train operates at no greater a grade than 5 degrees. So that's a gentle, gradual slope. Same thing for accessibility standards, actually. But the train goes down or up at a slope of gradually of less than or of 5 degrees. At this point here, what do we have? The manor, the Keg Manor. That's where the tunnel goes behind, or 485, I believe it is, Richmond Road. This is all underground. The excavation will appear from grade. That's the cut and cover excavation, but it will be backfilled. Once a concrete box is built, it will be backfilled. It is a tunnel all the way underneath. Again, we talked about how we get underneath Richmond Road here. That's with the decking. This is Sherborne Station. So while it is open air, it's still below grade. Continuing west, here we do have to do that 13-day closure again, so we can excavate from at grade and deck Woodruff Avenue. As we continue underground, again, New Orchard Station, also open air, but underground or below grade, pardon me, that's the right term, as it continues west underneath Byron Linear Park. At this point, hard to tell in the details, but it does swing north through McEwen Park and then down, because the turning radii of a train is also something we need to be cognizant of. And here, I don't know if you're able to see the green versus the light blue, but at this point, this is where the roof of the tunnel goes away, but it doesn't mean that's where the train is. Again, we realize that it is a slow grade up. So the green ends at approximately the Lawn Avenue Parkette. And that's where you'd see it. Effectively, it won't ever be truly at grade, but because we do need to get over a piece of storm sewer right here. Storm sewers are gravity fed, so we need to go over the storm sewer and then back down, because we actually go underneath Carling Avenue here, however, not below grade. Does that answer your question? And I hope it does. I'm sorry if I just droned on unnecessarily.
Damon,
Yeah.
Damon, you may just want to continue on a little bit. I'd seen a question in chat to describe the Connaught Tunnel. Just go down there and do the same
Very
explanation.
good.
I think might be helpful to the audience.
Thank you very much. And so here we have the split structure. Why we call it a split structure? Well, there are tracks that proceed south to Algonquin Station, as well as tracks that proceed south and then west to Moody. So here, again, I'm sorry, I don't know what you can see, but here is green, and that is the grade down towards below grade, the ramp, if you will. This, starting here at my cursor, all the way to here at my cursor, that's all below grade. I think it's as short as 400 meters, Jaimie, give or take.
Yeah, 250.
250. Look at
Yeah.
me overselling. And then this is trenched. This green area is trenched. Again, trenched. So the transit way north of Scott Street, that a trench like that, but with a train.
Okay, thank you. I have a question about Sherborne Station art installations, but since we don't have plans for the station, I think that's a bit premature at this point.
Well, we do have Ottawa Public Art, who is working on this, and there's no answers to it yet. But I do know that they have secured a contract with a group from the West Coast of the United States, and they're going to be working with Carlingwood and Wood Park Community Association in order to bring in the right kind of volunteers. There was a time a few months ago where they provided some names that have gone to be a part of this exercise. And so it's not so much, this is not only like the installation that you will see, but the process in how one achieves an installation. So a very neat concept. And we'll be hearing more about it in the coming weeks or months, I'm sure.
Great, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for the pedestrian area for the work zone for the 13-day closure of Woodruff, will they be monitored by police for safety?
Safety. So this is this right here. Sorry, again, I'm on the wrong monitor. This is through a work zone. So that a work zone is monitored by constructors. They are required to protect their spaces from errant pedestrians or cyclists or kids. My kids, oh my gosh. But they'll just imagine a fence, and you'll walk through a fence corridor. For any of you that existed around Bayview Avenue, Bayview Station construction in stage 1, many of those MUPs went through construction areas. They had, at that time, there was work over them, so there's shields above and fences on either side, and that's how pedestrians will get through. Campbell, I don't think police are required for this closure because it's static, but I will defer to you, sir.
That is correct, Damon. So once this closure goes into place, we are, like you said, going to be in a static operation. So there's not going to be 24/7 police presence for the entirety of the 13-day closure. There will be police required when we instate the closure and when we remove it, as we have whenever there is, a special need to control traffic at a traffic signal. But once the zone is set up, it will be set up and left there. And as you say, Damon, it's the contractor's responsibility to secure their work zone, and consequently, it will be secured to prevent any members of the public getting in there accidentally or otherwise.
And I would like to just point out, thank you, Campbell, and thank you, Councillor, but this is a very important thing for the community. I know that things happen, fences fall down, people push them, wind pushes them, whatever the case. You're my eyes on the ground. If you see something that is unsafe, you need to let me know. Please let me know. Jaimie is a responsive individual. I get him on weekends. At nighttime, Councillor Kavanagh, she's always emailing me on the weekends, and I'm quickly sending them over to Jaimie. And I'm, you know what? I got great people here, and they're looking out for you, and so am I. And I want to thank you.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, we're going to Lawn Avenue Parquet. Why is Kev using Lawn Avenue Parquet as a roadway for construction vehicles?
Well, Lawn Avenue Parkette is a construction zone. There is work going on in the Lawn Avenue Parkette to replace a storm sewer, which is why you'd see vehicles. As the city, we've requested, and as part of the Edgeworth works, and again, this isn't finalized, but my hope is that we can reduce the impact to the residents on streets. So if the vehicles are able to access via Richmond Road and egress via Lawn Avenue Parkette, then what we are doing is we're keeping construction trucks off the local roads.
Thank you. This question is, do the benches outside the station have a middle bar? I guess that's something to prevent people from sleeping on benches or like in airports. I don't know.
Okay, I don't know.
It could be social distancing.
So Damon, I can actually field this one.
Thank you, Rosanna.
So there is AODA guidelines for benches, and part of it has to do with the ability to assist somebody from putting both hands to be able to sit down into the chair. So the City of Ottawa does have guidelines, and all the benches at the stations will be following those AODA guidelines.
Great, thank you. For the overhead coverage in open air stations, will it be the same glass as already failed at existing stations?
I didn't know the glass had failed, but I haven't really left my house in a year. I did see when they were installing it that there's a real talent to tension just right. And if you got just a bit too much, there'd be a spiderweb effect as the glass was cracked. But that also shows that the safety precaution of no shatter was working. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. And I honestly
Talking about pasture due to snow.
Sorry,
due to snow.
The first word keeps cutting out. I'm sorry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
They were talking about Tunney's pasture that there was some issues due to snow.
Okay,
Snow build-
sorry. Snow buildup on the
existing stations.
Yeah,
This
I
is
guess
to do with
is like on the roof. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, overhead coverage in open air
okay.
station.
So you know, with oh right, that's a flat stained glass roof at Tunney's pasture. If anybody lives in a house with a flat roof, it's a good idea to shovel it. I think that might be what we're talking about. But again, that's on RTM. They do manage the maintenance. Rideau Transit Maintenance manages the maintenance of the stations, and they don't get paid if they don't do a good job. They don't adhere to our standards. So a flat roof is a flat roof, unless I've misunderstood the question, which I apologize. And I do encourage you to email me and I will endeavor to answer that at a better.
I think there was an issue of quality. So maybe that can be taken away. How will you remove snow from the deep, long, narrow, open trench? If it's open.
How will we remove snow? Well, trains move snow, right? Snow has to fall really fast for trains to not be effective at moving the snow. On those rare occasions where that happens, they have those machines that have been using with the brushes, and some have plows, and that's how snow is removed. Unless Jaimie has another idea, that's exactly how I believe it will be managed.
Oh, that's the best answer, Damon.
Okay, thank you. Will Kev, this is again about Edgeworth, the north end. Will Kev crew enforce construction vehicles access only at the north end of Edgeworth? And that was the issue about there was cars going through.
If we accept this plan, then that will be their responsibility to only allow construction vehicles. Campbell, please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's exactly it, Damon. The intention is not to change public traffic patterns whatsoever. In fact, we're going to considerable lengths to ensure that public traffic patterns remain exactly the same on Edgeworth throughout this work. And so in an effort to reduce the distance that trucks would have to travel within the community to get to those construction sites, we have looked at an option to have just construction vehicles turn into Edgeworth from Richmond Road. And so the expectation is that at the end of every work shift, they're going to be closing that off with the chain or the barrels, or some method that will be checked. And again, like Damon says, we're sure that our eyes and ears in the field will let us know if there are any slip ups in that regard. But absolutely, it is not intended to create any additional access points for anyone other than construction vehicles into the community, and we'll be diligent in following up to make sure that that's happening.
We do. I think this is probably based upon Friday's events. What I would like to point out is, I think it was talked about in Facebook for hours and hours before it actually reached Councillor Kavanagh's desk and therefore my desk. If you see something that is not untoward, feel like, please, engage your community, but please let us know, because I read it later and it's like, well, you didn't do it till the end of the day. Well, we didn't know till the end of the day, and we would have done it right away. So please let us know and we will action right away. That is our desire and our commitment. Thank you.
It does help to have the emails coming in because it's not always possible to respond on Facebook and for immediate things.
Or even
So
no. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Will there be any parking at Lincolnfield Station?
There will be passenger pickup and drop off at Lincolnfield Station.
Much like now?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not parking.
No, we are not creating any parking spots east-west.
Yes. Could you show where the new pedestrian bridge will come out on the east side? And that is, of course, at Whitehaven.
Yep. So the grade is a bit off here. That's why it does a squiggle, because as with the train, we are AODA compliant with our design, and we won't have any grades in excess of 5 degrees. Currently, this is the bridge, and here it has a connection into the Woodruff High School through the fence. I understand there have been some challenges there.
Yes.
Please see this. New pops onto the extension of Rosewood. I believe it's called the extension of Rosewood Avenue, but this is Rosewood, this road that does this, and I apologize if I've missed it.
Yeah. So for dog walkers, this is good news. It's also good news for Woodruff High School principal, because it was a conflict to have walking through their property, and there was nothing the city could do in response, since it is their property. So that will no longer be an issue, because the bridge will be connecting directly at the bottom of the property.
And I do believe that with no students in schools right now, it's probably not a problem at this moment in time either. All things being equal, we're probably not going to have any school until the end of June. So help me now.
Anyway, will any concrete patching be done this year on the pedestrian bridge, as the concrete is crumbling?
Oh.
Well, it doesn't have much of a life left, but
that's not a stage. I hate saying it's out of our scope. That pedestrian bridge is something that we will demolish, and we will build a new pedestrian bridge. The existing pedestrian bridge, that is a public works piece of infrastructure, and I would encourage Councillor Kavanagh, if she felt that there was sufficient damage that warranted repair for 1 year, then to pursue it. But again, depends on the level of damage. Maybe a cold patch could fix. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's good to know. Certainly we want it to be safe, and it could be looked at to make sure it's going to hold on for another year.
That's it. Sorry if I forgot, Paul, I omitted to give you this update when I was talking about Moody Bridge, but there was cold patch that was installed next to the catch basin today. They tried to move the TCBs with the front loader. That didn't work, so they're going to try and do that again tomorrow. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor.
Okay. All right, where was I? Why is there not any connectivity from the south portion of Whitehaven community to Queensview, which is significantly closer? In other words, there is currently a Queensview station there that will be decommissioned, but it does create a back and forth. But I've had this conversation with you before, Damon. I actually raised this issue of But it's complicated in terms of who owns those lands and who would make paths, which is mostly NCC, I believe. Because it's not just about, it's pretty complicated.
Yes, Councillor, that's a question that you've raised with myself a couple times. It's at the existing Queensway Station. You're talking about on the top platform on the north side of the highway, and going on beyond it. That in itself is beyond the stage 2 scope of work. And as mentioned previously, it is NCC and MTO land. As much as I see your vision and I hope to support you in it, unfortunately, that is something that we are not able to help you with as much as.
Yeah, it's not been brought into the scope of what this project was, but I think that still that infrastructure will be there. So it's a topic to talk about for the future. Why is Kev using the area closest to our residential homes, Mayflower Private, Lincoln Fields area, mere meters from our homes for storing and constantly moving construction material and equipment? This generates constant high level noise and vibration from the front loaders. There is plenty space farther away from our homes at the same staging area.
Okay, so I'll say something really quickly and I'll hand it over to Jaimie because Jaimie is Kev. But I will say that Kev is working within the lands that they have from the city of Ottawa and the NCC. And they have the right to utilize those lands as they best see fit. Sometimes when we as lay people, me, a lay person, sees something and says, well, why wouldn't you do it there? But I don't know 3 steps ahead that would absolutely preclude a site trailer from going there or things to be stored there because actually something else is going to happen there. That's my general answer, and I'm going to hand it over to Jaimie. Thank you.
I mean, Damon, I think you did a good job answering that question. I mean, the lands available for laydown and staging are quite limited along the entire project, and so we have to make do with the space that we've got there. And so you know, we recognize from day one that when we took over the lands that behind 1190 Richmond and Mayflower Private, that you know, we had to be careful of, you know, site trailers and other crews and equipment and things like that. And so and there really isn't much other space in order to put those along. And so you know, we do put them within fencing. We do put mesh around the fencing, echo barriers where possible, to sort of protect that and shield the community as best as we can from both noise and dust. Because the alternatives, quite frankly, like along Byron and other places, I mean, that doesn't work, because then those vehicles and trailers and things like that would be completely, the community would be completely exposed to those. So, but we're always mindful, and when before we even go in there, we go and take a look at where best to locate these things, wrapping them, whether it's a generator, whether it's a piece of equipment, whether it's a porta potty, making sure that we do our best to blunt the impact on the community.
Okay. Thank you, Jaimie. Will two-way traffic be maintained on Cartstown? I can answer that. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
And thanks for Rosanna for pointing it out that it was on the NCC Board of Directors meeting agenda as a consent item.
Yes, and I can report that it did get passed on the consent agenda. So the next step is to go to Treasury Board, and I have asked that I be kept in the loop and be the first to know at every step of the game to move forward.
Thank you so much, Rosanna. Okay, I think we've already looked at the bridge. There were some questions about looking at it again, but since it's up on the screen, I think we've got that. Can you talk about the Connaught Tunnel? I guess they wanted a little more information about the Connaught Tunnel.
Okay. Jaimie, I think I gave as high level detail as I could. Is there any information at the Connaught Tunnel you'd like to share? 250 meters, a depth of how much?
270, Damon. I looked. I thought about it myself, and I was going to say approximately 250, but it's 270. But I think that you again, I think that you answered that correctly. I mean, if someone has a follow-up, perhaps we could get into it. But I think that that's you talked about the portal going on each side. You talked about the length of the tunnel. And it really just allows us to get across the road there, and that's really the intention of the tunnel in that location.
Okay, thank you.
Just to Jamie's point, if we've missed the question, and it's likely I might have, and I apologize, we'll put my email address on at the end of this again, and I want you to please follow up, and I will do my best to unpack that for you.
Okay, I've got questions about Queensview Drive and hello? Oh, sorry. They're asking about access to the Queensview Station and the parking lot. Will it be reopened between Good Life and the building beside it? No, those are private property, I can tell you now.
Thank you, Councillor.
When will a new MUP be created between Severn or Connaught to the Queensview Drive Station? It's I think I can take that one. It's I've been working on that with the city because it didn't get put in the scope of stage 2. That's why I'm not saying for these guys to answer it. And I'm pretty determined about it. But we need real estate. We have to expropriate a home. So it will be complicated. And because it's outside of the scope and it's an extra cost. And real estate just went crazy. I don't know if anyone noticed, but it would be basically demolishing a house and going through to get to that street. So it's still being looked at. I've got, there's a planner who's very keen on it too at the city, and we're working on it, but nothing to report at this point. What is the status of a sidewalk on the west side of Sherborne for accessibility from Carling to Sherborne Station? There is no update on that because it's outside the scope of stage 2 as well. It's something I have asked for on the list. It is on the list. I checked with Vivi recently, Vivi Chi, who's with the city in transportation, and it's still on a list, but I haven't, it's not tied in with stage 2. It's not like Connaught sidewalk that got tied in very early, like 7 years ago, tied in. When I got elected and came in, I saw it as a need and I asked it for it right away, but it missed being part of a budget. So it will be a city request like many sidewalks are, but we'll still be pushing for it, that's for sure. I've already explained how passionate I am about that because I still live there. Who's monitoring COVID precautions on the work sites, like mask wearing?
Okay. COVID precautions are managed by the constructor. Kev has a strict safety policy, and I'll hand that over to Jaimie.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. We take mask wearing very, very seriously, and we're monitoring that. I think I last heard that when we did an independent audit was somewhere around 98-99% mask wearing. So that's employees all on site. They're required to wear full PPE, personal protective equipment, and including masks. And so we do our very, very best to ensure that we are an essential service. We're an essential, we want to continue to work and we want to continue to get the project built on schedule. And so therefore we take issues of wearing masks by our employees and our staff and our contractors very seriously.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know that was a concern for people and rightly so during these times. Yep. In terms of, okay, how much time are you guys willing to go? Because it's almost 8:30. I've still got quite a few questions here. I think I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions right here.
I'm prepared to continue answering questions.
Okay.
You guys have taken the time
Georgie's
for us.
been
We're taking the time
asking
for you. Thank you.
So read them easier rather than staring at the chat. But Moody Overpass. that was a concern, what you had said. And they're saying that Chris Swale had said that the MUP was part of the contract. What has changed?
The MUP is not part of the contract. The MUP was to be a variation. I apologize if that miscommunication presented itself. The MUP is not part of the contract. The contract calls for a sidewalk on the west side of Moody Bridge. That is what Kev is contractually obligated to build. That is what Kev will build. Currently, there's a temporary sidewalk. There will be a permanent sidewalk in place. I will tell you that the rail office under Michael Morgan, under John Manconi, under Mayor Watson, we all believe in this very important linkage. We also don't believe in wasting taxpayers' dollars. And if someone wants to build something at 4 times the price, then we're going to wait and do it ourselves. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I only found out about this today, by the way. So I'm just being very honest with you about what I learned, because I thought this was going to be a go-ahead.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, when it was presented to the community as part of the Connectivity 2.0, it was listed in the presentation as a proposed enhancement. I'm sorry that I was the one to give you the bad news of a project I had nothing to do with. It wasn't my intention. It's not an enviable position.
Yeah. Anyway, we are pursuing it, believe me. Noise reduction, what are the plans for sound and light reduction for Whitehaven residents, especially at Rosewood?
Great question. And you heard me answer about the Connaught berm. So we are awaiting that noise and vibration study. That noise and vibration study is going to dictate what enhancements are required. And required means if the modeling shows a dBA of an operation higher than acceptable standards. I can't answer more than that because there's nothing more to answer, but we and Kev will build the mitigations for perceived overages.
Okay. Back to the Moody overpass. Will Kev be doing the raising of the railing that would be required for pedestrians and cyclists on the west side?
Campbell, could you take that, please?
Yes, I can. And so I will preface my comment by saying that I have not looked at the language surrounding this bridge in some months, but I do recall when we wrote the contract that we foresaw this exact issue. And I believe the way the wording is in the contract is that on any pedestrian facility on a bridge, the only rail height that is allowed to be installed is 1,440 millimeters, which is the height required for a combined pedestrian or cyclist railing per the Canada Highway Bridge Design Code. So what that means is that when we do come back and put them up on this bridge, the railing height will already be suitable for cyclists there. The reason why we wrote it that way was because we're aware that even if you only have a sidewalk, that doesn't necessarily mean that people won't ride their bikes on it. And we thought it was very important to make sure that the railing height, anywhere we're doing any retrofits, was safe for cyclists, whether or not the facility was specifically built for cyclists.
That was a lesson learned on Booth Street Bridge.
Yes, which did not have cycling infrastructure as part of the project.
Nor did it have the right height of barricades to allow for a shared use of the sidewalk.
Yeah. And I can tell you it's very important for cyclists. It's actually a key spot. Okay, from Kathy, why is the noise study for Connaught Park taking so long? And second question, are the operational hours for phase 2 stations going to be the same as the current O-train hours?
The current Confederation line, east-west, that operational, that is an OC Transpo operation. And my understanding is OC Transpo intends to operate the same hours they operate the current Confederation line stage 1. Yes.
Okay. Noise study. I think you've hit on that already.
I'm sorry that it's not finalized. I wish it was, because I hate answering that question ad nauseum, but that's unfortunately the best I can do. I'm sorry.
East side MUP on Holly Acres does not have a signalized crossing at Richmond Road. Will this be added when the west side MUP is closed for construction?
Campbell, please.
Yes, indeed. I sent a message directly to, I think it was Rick Nelson who posed that question. I responded to him in the chat, but when we were talking previously about when we're rebuilding the intersection, that's to the north of the 417 on Holly Acres, and we're gonna have to close the MUP on one side, briefly in order to do the reconstruction work there, and at that point we'll detour cyclists to the east side. And so the question is, imagine you're a southbound cyclist on that MUP or pedestrian. What happens when you get to the intersection of Richmond Road? There's not a pedestrian crossing across Richmond Road on the east side of the Holly Acres Richmond Road intersection. The way I answered the question is to point out that there is a signalized intersection at, of course, the south ramp terminal, the eastbound off ramp that is in between the north intersection and the south intersection. So effectively, we will cross MUP users back over to the west side at the first point we're able to, which is north of the Richmond Road intersection, and consequently, it's effectively a non-issue because the detoured MUP users won't have to get as far south as Richmond Road. And I'd like to point out also that we really will only be closing MUPs and detouring anybody from these MUPs for the shortest amount of time possible, which is to say only the work that's specifically conflicting with those multi-use pathways being open. So I'm not anticipating that this would be for a lengthy period of time at all. We're not talking months, we're talking days or weeks.
Thank you, Campbell.
Thank you very much. This question, I think it implies for Wood Park, but can the delivery vehicles be geo-fenced and tracked using their existing telematics? It would avoid the need for constant citizen complaints and clearly demonstrate compliance.
So there are some vehicles that are geotagged, depending on the subcontractor. The issue with haulage and deliveries is dealing with subs of subs of subs. Some of the subs of subs of subs are like Joe's Cartage from blank, and it's the guy who owns the truck. He may not have the highest equip. And so I acknowledge it's frustrating to be the police of your community. Growing up, my mom was a neighborhood watch. I always thought that was pretty cool. I don't know what happened to that program, by the way. But I will say that adherence to the plan and that support from the community has resulted to what, 1%, 2%, 3% failure rate. I think we were well above 50 when this started. So yeah, what we have been able to do is when we have photos of what truck, because again, with so many subs, how exactly do we identify who or what? That's why residents taking a photo of an offending vehicle allows us to determine whether it's a cab vehicle or not, because I know it's hard to believe there are other construction vehicles out there. And also some of those construction vehicles, like the Edgeworth and Lawn Avenue, had work at the intersection. Those trucks had to come and go from somewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. We've come a long way.
Damon, Damon and Councillor, I may just add, I mean, I know this has been an issue in the past for the community, and I think we've made tremendous strides in it, but I want to assure folks that, whenever we hear from the councillor and Damon, my colleague Jen and I immediately raise this up to the highest levels at our construction management team, and it goes directly to the senior manager at the contractors or subcontractors that are working with us, because it's as far as we're concerned, it's zero tolerance, and it's often it's not regular drivers, it's often a rookie driver or something. So, but that there's lots of signage, and they're told, and if there have been issues, I think that we've called out, or even some drivers have been disciplined. I understand because of if this is something that we take very, very seriously, and it's commitments we've made to the councillor and the community to use only approved haul routes and not to infiltrate into the community where people are living and working at home every day.
Okay, thank you. I'm just looking at next questions here. We got to wrap up soon, and I apologize. There's a ton of good questions. Whitehaven was asking about, are we expecting more traffic at the Woodruff High School area? And can we evaluate making a specific path for walkers and not just a wide road? I think you're implying about the MUP, not actual road. Can you make one area specifically for walkers versus, I'm not sure, I'm not.
Oh, I think high traffic of perhaps cyclists. So a MUP is a multi-use, and it is intended for users to share, same as in Byron Linear Park when there was a pathway. And you know, I acknowledge the fact that there are some people who don't share very well. They might hang out with my 4-year-old, but it is incumbent upon us who use these shared services to share accordingly. As a cyclist, use your bell, that's mandated. Go around. Pedestrians, share the space. If you're walking two abreast, go to single file. No one has to feel like they have to get off the pathway.
Oh, okay. So this is from Whitehaven Community Association. I think it's Sarah. I'm in the section that is the road for the Woodruff High School staff that isn't a pathway for the MUP, but a road. I think it's carved out.
Sorry, Sarah.
Yeah, apologies. I think it's carved out so that where the path is. I actually told Damon that we needed to have a meeting with Woodruff High School, or actually with the school board, who I know very well, to make sure that we had a clear vision together of that entrance. So that was almost a year ago.
Yeah, and I shared that information with Woodruff High School, and the Ottawa Carleton District School Board executive shared the information, and I received a thanks for the information, Damon, email in response. No desire to follow up with a meeting on their end. I'm happy to meet with anybody always.
Yes, but and now that they don't want dog walkers walking through the entire property, I think they're more keen to sort of settle it. But yeah, I think I'll have to chase them down again to get that finalized. But I went out of my way to make sure that there was a clear understanding of the traffic pattern there, of that is pedestrian and cyclists. But frankly, it's way better than before, because it's better than the hole in the fence. Trying to ride your bike through there is a pain. Will southbound traffic on Holly Acres from Carling be permitted to turn right westward to Canada? No. I've looked at that. At one point we thought, I already, it's been an ongoing question even before stage 2 LRT. And it looked like it was going to happen, and it looked like there was support, but it's too complicated at the moment, especially with the construction. And I have been told, and Campbell can back me up here.
Yeah, we all advocated strongly. There was a signal reconfiguration, this intersection reconfiguration that will be required for that. And there was no clear support one way or the other for or against within the community. Therefore, changing it wasn't seen as the right approach. And I took your, sorry, Campbell.
No, I was just going to say, well said, Damon, and you've clearly digested all of the issues surrounding this one, very effectively. And that's where we're at.
Yep, thank you. This one's for you, Campbell, and I got this sent to me. Because of the detours, people are doing U-turns, and they're doing it on Des Moines and Watson. Watson Street is parallel to Pinecrest there. So they go off onto Des Moines and they kind of look for the first street to turn around and do a U-turn because they screwed up or you didn't know it was closed off. And There's been a lot of people doing that, and we did bring that forward, but I think it should be looked into.
And that's something we certainly can look into, Councillor. I think this is the first, candidly, concern I've heard about U-turns occurring on side streets off of Du Maurier. And I guess for the sake of those in the meeting who aren't aware, we've closed the on-ramp from northbound Greenbank or Pinecrest to the westbound highway. However, the on-ramp to the westbound highway from southbound Pinecrest remains open. So if you are heading northbound on Greenbank and you've missed our detour signs that we have posted on northbound Greenbank at Baseline, encouraging you to head west on Baseline, or if you've missed our signs on Baseline telling you don't turn right if you're going to the highway, continue straight on Baseline to pick up the next ramp further downstream, you will end up northbound and unable to get onto the highway as to head towards Canada. And so, although we have a detour route posted that would take traffic north on Pinecrest, west on Richmond to pick up the on-ramp at Holly Acres, there are indeed some enterprising people who may find it more convenient to pull a U-turn somewhere else as opposed to following the signage that we have posted.
Okay.
And so they will. We can perform, sort of counts, ask to work with the constructor to see if, get a sense of the number of vehicles that are doing it. However, without going to particularly, restrictive sorts of measures, it may be difficult to eliminate entirely. And so Councillor would be happy to follow up with you separately to ensure that we're getting you the information you need.
Thank you. Yes, I did have that raised. I've only got 4 questions left, and that's it. No new questions, please, unless you just mailed them to us. bayward@ottawa.ca. That would be great.
Damon Berlin@ottawa.ca.
That would be fine, because we're still working through these. Okay, is there a contract between the city and Kev publicly? Is this publicly accessible information, the contract?
No, an active contract between these two parties is not publicly available. There is a redacted version of the project agreement on the Stage 2 website at ottawa.ca.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are the detours for OC Transpo going to look like around Pinecrest and the 417 interchange? I'm not sure if I understand that.
Campbell would and does.
So eventually we will need to close the transitway between Pinecrest and Bayshore when we start putting tracks on it. And so I assume the question is to do with what will OC Transpo do when we close the transitway? And the answer is between Pinecrest and Bayshore, buses will be using the 417 and will be basically using the outside lanes that connect the on-ramp from Pinecrest to the off-ramp at Richmond and onwards towards Moody. And in the eastbound direction, buses will be getting on the highway at the Richmond on-ramp, near Holly Acres to head east. They'll be getting off at Pinecrest and will serve temporary stops there before heading on to their regular route, where they pick up the transitway again at Queensview Station. Hopefully that provides a clear answer, but again, please feel free to follow up if that didn't cover it.
Okay. This is kind of outside of our area, but for Tunnies to the S-Jam, when will the buses be detoured onto an extension of Churchill over to Workman Avenue?
Okay. So the construction for that begins this year, and I believe it's next summer, but Campbell can tell me specifically. I think June.
That's correct. I think it is late April 2022 is the date that I've got circled in my calendar.
Okay. All right, thank you. That'll be a biggie. How are buses going to travel between Lincolnfield Station towards the 417 at Woodruff and towards Baseline or Algonquin Station?
I'll get all bus questions now. Buses that are going to leave Lincolnfield Station and head to the westbound 417 are going to do it exactly the same way they do now. we've got enough space in the corridor to ensure that the transitway can remain open. We may need to shunt it off to the side a little bit to make enough space to build the rail, but we've got room in the corridor to keep the transitway open there, which is excellent. Makes my life a lot easier. Now, with regard to buses that are heading south to Baseline Station, again, we do have enough space in the corridor to get them underneath the 417 and to get them to Iris Street. Right now, if you've ridden the bus through there, you'll notice that there's a little deviation of the transitway through our deviation of Iris. We moved Iris out of the way so we can build the bridge that will eventually go over the train. And now we need to move the transitway out of the way so we can do some other important work to do station construction and water management and such. So right now we keep the transitway open, but eventually we're going to have to close it. And when we close it, we're going to close it at Iris and only between Iris and Baseline. And at that point in time, buses will head east from the transitway to Woodruff and then continue south down Woodruff to Baseline Station, and the opposite in the northbound direction.
Algonquin Station.
Okay, thank you very much. Lots and lots of good questions tonight, and this is massive. I just want to give a special thank you to the staff, Damon and Rosanna and Jaimie and everyone. When I started out, it was difficult to get information because we didn't have enough staff. Frankly, Damon was there, but it was a lot of work and trying to keep up with everything. And I appreciated that the city made good sense to bring in more staff, and it's made our lives easier just to get to troubleshooting because things happen. Things happen that we didn't plan or expect. This is a major construction site, and you guys are the most affected in the city. Damon and I have talked about this, of how close this is to residential, closer than anywhere else on these projects. We've taken a look at that, and I've talked to Michael Morgan about that. So you are greatly affected. The other side of it will be you'll have that station right near your homes. So it's a lot of pain for a lot of gain. And I thank you. It's not been easy, but you're hanging in there. So thank you very much, Damon. I know you worked really hard on all this stuff, and we had a lot of last minute information to go through. This is massive, and I appreciate it. And thank you for all your hard work. Thank you to the team. Anyway, the questions are going to keep coming in, but it was great to show it all at once. And for people from different areas, you get to see what's happening in other areas, just to give you a big overview. Thank you. And get some rest, and another busy day tomorrow. Thank you so much.
We're going to make the presentation available to Councillor Kavanagh, who will in turn share it with anybody who asks. Thank you very much. And a big shout out to Lucas. Honestly, I have not recognized a face at every single event I've ever presented at or been at. And thank you. Thank you for showing such a concerted effort to our project. I mean, everybody. But Lucas, you've never failed me. You're always there. And I thank you, sir.
I noticed as well. Thank you, Lucas.
No, thank you very much. It's been very helpful. Okay, everybody needs to get some rest, and take care.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.